Hello, y'all. Welcome to episode number 27 of the Jackass Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about NFL Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about a possible government shutdown. We're going to talk about ICE and protests for ICE, especially around my hometown of San Antonio. We are going to talk about the Royal Rumble, and we'll talk a little bit about Super Bowl and fantasy football. Probably also might mention just some interesting things happening. We'll see how it goes. So, again, good morning. This is another Sunday morning. It's the 1st of February. And I am coming to you from home. Please, if you like the podcast, subscribe, follow me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, any of those, please. I know I'm probably doing a really slow build. And also like and follow me if you see me on any of my social media. At Evan Lindsay 50 on TikTok. Right, Coach Lindsay 50 on TikTok is what I think it is. Well, that's a great question. I think it's Evan Lindsay 50 at TikTok. I already know what my Instagram feed is. But that's what we're going to do today. So, we're also going to talk about, at Evan Lindsay 50 on TikTok under Coach Lindsay. So we're going to start with the annoying thing to me is that this is even might be happening again. The fact that there's even a possibility of another government shutdown so close and it's becoming such a political tool that messes with a whole bunch of people for people who don't have to deal with the consequences because they're still going to get paid. Senate and congressmen still going to get paid, whether it's being paid by the government with their, I want to say, most of them like 400K salaries. And versus taking away people's pay for jobs that they're going to do, regardless, because they're going to be considered emergency jobs. I don't get it. I don't get why this is even a thing. That y'all can't do your job and get the budgets and all that stuff. Right. So you can make sure the people that work for the government are paid so they're not having to struggle. It's really what I don't get. So, I don't get why this is a thing. I don't get why we haven't fixed this problem yet. And I don't get why it's becoming more and more common. Because I think before, actually, you know what? I think it is. I think it has to do with an attitude that has grown in this country in like the past 2 or 3 generations of people. Because my grandfather's generation was about duty. All the generations before that, from the revolution on, were about duty and what you did for your country. And since probably maybe baby boomers and maybe Gen X somewhere in there, we've become dissident about the duty that we have in this country. Now, some of this is because I was raised in a military family. Some of this is because I just have a respect for the military. Probably because I was raised by military people. Probably because I understand it. Probably because I was raised since I was 5 in Military City, USA. Seeing the remnants of 2 other bases used for stuff when we used to have 5 bases in town. To say there's not a lot of government in San Antonio would be an understatement. I know there's an FBI office here. I know that there's an NSA place here. I know that we have 3 active military bases here and an annex and 2 annexes for the military bases. We have one of the best hospital units here in Fort Sam at the Brooks Army Medical Center um, hospital, and they have one of the best burn units. That's why we moved down to San Antonio, because of the birth defect my brother had. Made it look like he had second and third degree burns, and he got to be a a guinea pig for some of the stuff. But the fact that in the past couple of years we keep shutting down the government because our congressmen and our senators can't get their job done right is atrocious. And the fact it's even coming up again, and y'all are boistering about it, and you're using immigration and department or the, the DHH stuff about it. I don't get it. I don't get why you're politicizing this. Because it doesn't make any of y'all look good to average people. I don't give a fuck what CNN says. I don't give a fuck what Fox News says. I'm not, like, I'll listen to both. I listen to clips from both all the time. What I don't get is why there's such a disconnect from our congressmen of what the reality of the situation is. Because you're affecting people that don't make nearly as much money you do in a society that's run on needing money, and businesses aren't always going to give out handouts and stuff, even though, and local government shouldn't be handing out, be the ones that have to hand out funds, because the federal government is fucking around with people's money is the best way to put it. I think it's despicable, and I think it's just dumb. I think because we have forgot to embrace the art of compromise in this country, that people think it has to be one way or the other, that we've set our government up that way. And I know not every one of them is an AOC or Ted Kennedy or Donald Trump, and even Donald Trump's not that far, right? But there is this thing of we need, I don't know, all this madness to stop. Like, let's be serious. This is not look good for our country. From a local perspective, from a national perspective, and from an international perspective. We look disjointed, and we are, unfortunately. And that's the reality of the situation. We're disjointed because everybody wants to take these big swings instead of taking gradual steps now, because we become spoiled. So it's either my way or the highway. And there's a lot of things where this could be held better and handled better. So we're going to see. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that they get out of it what they need to, and that they get the funding right, and they get whatever compromise they need to come up with, and not mess with people again. So that's what I'm going to say on that part of it. Now, the part that kind of connects to it that was kind of interesting is we have people who are having trouble with ICE agents, which is, for a federal agency, it's kind of new. It's about 20, 25 years old. It's just a more specific agency than what it was for a long time. Something like it says been around since the 1700s, because you have to have something around when you're letting immigrants come in, and that's what this country's based off of, is letting immigrants come in. But there has to be a legal way to do it. There has to be, you need to do it right. And the fact that people are in some places ex- being extreme, and that they're getting in the way of federal stuff. So you don't know exactly who or why they're going after certain people, but you're getting, and you're putting federal agents in a position where they have to make choices that they shouldn't have had to make. That their reactions and their training has to come in because they're trained to do a job. They're trained to do it a certain way, and people don't want to take responsibility for the actions that they cause. They don't get to be so happy about it, and then so mad about it because they did something stupid. Now, I'm gonna give San Antonio some credit here. Um, in the past like 5 years, we've had a lot of very peaceful protests. Probably past 10 years, because I'm gonna say I've been away from Walmart, and I can remember guys coming in. I want to I want to say it was during the Obama administration, and there were some guys that would come in, and I sold guns for a living, so you had gun nuts and you had right wing nuts, and I'm an advocate for the Second Amendment, like a lot of people are, but they would do peaceful rallies with the guns on their shoulders. Of course, the city could be wary about it, but these guys were responsible gun owners trying to do a responsible protest showing their. I think it's around the time they were talking about getting rid of AR-15s for everybody. Um, and so that was one of the things they did in the city of San Antonio. When there were Black Lives Matters protests downtown, those were peaceful. Just coming from a town that is over 50% Mexican, and they have the biggest, or these people say, we have one of the biggest marches for Martin Luther King in the country. And we're not the biggest city in the world. You would think someplace like New York, LA, Chicago, that have a lot more, or Philly or Atlanta, that have a lot more of a black population than we do, would do that. But no, it's San Antonio. And it's peaceful. Uh, and we've shown our kids what a peaceful protest looks like in that way. They may not know it, but like high school kids have been doing something. I guess that they compromise with their administration, but high schoolers have been doing it during a lunchtime or a period, and been marching in San Antonio at different times. These are high school age kids. I work at a middle school, and this week we had to kind of warn kids and parents because the responsibility of the school is different than a high school. We're we're talking middle school. We're treating them as they're young kids starting to go down that adult path. So we can't give them that same freedom, like to do a walkout and stuff like that. Because walking out in middle school is different than walking out in high school. Because maybe you walk out of high school and maybe you don't have a class the rest of the day, so you can just walk out the building and go, and go where you're supposed to go. Or you have well, in middle school, you're supposed to be there, and it's the school's responsibility to take care of you legally. That's what we're charged with. Um, so it's kind of interesting to see. It'll kind of be interesting to see how they handle the kids that did do the walkout, but I don't think the we measured it as a safety thing more than not wanting them to protest. Um, I've had instances where kids, for some reason, wanted to go walk out because they were tired of the way they were being treated at school. And this was pre-COVID. This was pre me being an actual teacher, like getting paid to be a teacher. I was a sub, and it had to be 2013, 14. Got to be 2013 because it was a 60-year anniversary of the JFK assassination. And the ISS teacher had been alive during that time. So he was telling stories about it, and we'd had a crazy day anyway. But there'd been a rumor all week. So this is right before we're going on Thanksgiving break, too. A rumor all week that the kids and seventh graders were gonna do a walkout, and they kind of told me, not thinking I would tell anybody anything. Um, but it was like one of the craziest days, like one of, not the most physically crazy day, but one of those days that just drains you really quick because of all the stresses that can happen on a day like that. So I'll give you backstory. I was subbing. It was the end of a week-long sub job. A teacher taking off and gave me a few days. And so I was at this middle school. Well, middle school, sometimes we have portables because there's not enough rooms in the school. So we had portables for, what's it called? They had portables, and the ISS was out in the portables. Okay, cool. That makes sense. So ISS out in the portables. So I went out there. They told me, because the teacher's conference period was first, and you usually don't give the sub unless they're like a long-term sub a conference period. So I went and did my conference period out there with them. And then the breaker for the portables blew. So we had to move the kids. It was a big shock and all that stuff. Well, right after we moved the kids, then they have a fire drill. Okay, fire drills are common. You got to do them once, twice a month. They're a normal thing. So we did them. Then during lunch, right after the sixth grade lunch got done, they did a lockdown, which means that you kept kids at the time. Now it's called hold and secure, but it was a lockdown. You basically locked the room down. They couldn't do anything. At the times, they weren't giving subs extra keys for the room they were in. Now they do, especially since the Uvalde incident down here has been one of the changes. This is cool. Some schools do it, some schools don't. But it's something I have noticed before. But the reason they did the lockdown, the kids, I was in the seventh grade class. Kids, these were seventh graders, are like, oh, well, they know we're going to do this walkout. So they're locking down the school so we don't do the walkout. Come to find out that had nothing to do with it. Some kid had sprayed pepper spray in the cafeteria, and they were trying to air out the cafeteria. If you have never been around pepper spray when it's sprayed, that stuff sucks for everybody. So my first genuine experience with it was when I was a middle schooler. I was in 6th or 7th grade. And someone sprayed it through the vent that went through the whole school. So it spread throughout the whole school. And we felt it in my hallway that my locker was at, because we actually still use lockers way back when. And that was the trigger for the whole school. So we evacuated the school. The school was like we did a basic fire drill and evacuation for I don't know like 2 3 hours till they came, cleared out the school, found out what it was. Like, and these are things. This happened. I'm saying the one from when I was in school happened in like 95 ish, 96 ish, somewhere in there. So we're talking 30 years ago now, plus. Um, and so we know dumb things happen at school. But I was, now let me go back to, for the high schoolers that did the ICE protest that I have heard, um, even my daughters did one. Uh, it was well organized, it was peaceful, and they have every right to do it. And so I'm not gonna say like I kind of gave I gave one of my daughters a little crap for it, but it wasn't like, oh well, you shouldn't like you shouldn't believe this. Like it was just not in the character traits that I thought my daughter would do something like this. Um, and then when she explained to me why she did it, when she did it, it kind of made more sense because she was very analytical about it. It was during a class period that she didn't need because she's in orchestra and this is her third year in orchestra, so she doesn't need the class and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, now it makes more sense. Um, and down here in San Antonio, man, you can go down one of three highways, four highways, and you're 3 hours away from the border if you go west. Like, I can't sit here and say that San Antonio will be a mecca for um, not wanting ice in town. Doesn't surprise me because prior to ice being an actual federal thing, seeing border patrol trucks here or cars here has never been a shocker. We're in South Texas. There are people who got family in Mexico still. There are generations of people who go down to Mexico because they still got family there, probably since Texas independence from Mexico so many years ago. So I don't know what to I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what to see about it. I just know that we have all this stuff and it's like what are we gonna do about it? So um but let's let's look at it for what it is. If you're protesting peacefully, that's acceptable. Once you cross that line of peaceful protest, freedom of speech and the, the freedom of a peaceful protest is no longer covered. Now you're crossing the lines of legality. Um, and if you're impeding federal agents, no matter whether you agree with what they're doing or not, you're committing a crime. Like it's a fine line that agents or officers have to wrestle with to handle the stuff that they handle and handle the people that they handle. So um, I think that we need to like come back together and go, hey, this is something that's been happening for 20 years. So that means if you're saying 2003, that means it was made during the Bush administration. Okay. Uh, but that means also lasted 12 years as Democrat, and they have a higher rate of kicking people out than the Republicans did. So we need to stop making a Democrat Republican. Let these people do their job. Get people who come in over here commit crime and aren't being productive members of society out of the country, and then give away for those people who are being productive members, who maybe couldn't have afforded the visa or whatnot, and find a path for them. That would be the perfect compromise. Whether it will ever happen, I don't know. But there needs to be a way for it to come about. That's one of the things that needs to happen. Um, so that's all I got to say on that one. No, I'm gonna do fantasy football first. Um, Probably here next week, I'll start listening about rookies and stuff on the podcast that I like. Um, this will be one of the first weeks that I don't have two tons of paperwork to do throughout the whole week, which will be nice. Uh, oh crap! I think I got another one due tomorrow, um, which is fine. But we will get all this stuff done um, in what we need to do. Da, 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 da. But I think my question on fantasy football is becoming, because some of the leagues that I'm in, for some reason, so one league I'm in actually gives you bonus, like defensive bonuses and stuff. So if you can find a decent defense, you can actually get like 20, 30 points off of it. Really easy. But then one of the new dynasty leagues I'm in, my friend made it offensive heavy. Where I don't even think we don't have a kicker and we don't have a defense at all. So we take out 2/3 of the game. So while he did that, I decided, and I'm calling my league the Chaos League, is that everything that happens on the football field is going to count. And if you're like, well, you need to know football. Yeah, I think you should know football. I think you should know every side of the ball, part of the ball. And I have a feeling that it's going to be hard to fill, which I may open it. I haven't decided yet. I might, just to see how people are, just to see if I can fill up a 12-team league. And if I haven't described it before, it's going to be a 12-team keeper league, with there's also an auction style draft, which will be interesting. I'm gonna do a long form auction style, but it'll be the hell? But it's also going to be, yeah, it's an auction league. So I just want to see how that goes. But it's going to have all the IDP players, a defense, a kicker, a whole bunch of offensive players, and then a couple keeper slots, which should be interesting. It should be fun to me. But my friends who are big into fantasy so far, some of them don't want to touch it, which is fine. Y'all do what you want. I don't care. This is just something I want to try out, and I hope people like it. Again, scoring on everything: sacks, fumbles, negative plays on defense, on first downs on offense, receiving, catching. However, added points for like running backs and tight ends catching first downs and stuff like that. So points everywhere. Every which way I could get points onto what's it called? Sleeper, which is the app we use. Every which way I can get points on that, I'm doing in one league. And I'm gonna have fun with it. I think it'll be a fun league. But whatever. Knowing my friends, they all think I'm crazy, so I'm not gonna worry about it. But that's kind of how I view football anyway. So hopefully some people will join. If they don't, fine. But I think we've gotten so offensive crazy, And offense is great. I love offense. I'm an offensive guy. But I also grew up in an era where defense really did matter, where the rules were there for defenders. And we don't celebrate as many defenders as we used to, because we've taken what they can do away from them, which sucks, which I understand. It's for the safety of the game type deal. But come look for it. Like I said, it's going to be called the Chaos League. I'm probably going to open it on Sleeper. So if you hear this, man, come join. I think my name on there is Shrek Fatty. I'm not sure. But it'll be something like that. I'll be the commissioner of it. It'll be the first one I'm commissioned. But come on, just let me know. And we'll figure it out. But going from one thing to the next. This week, one of the biggest sports topics was Bill Belichick being snubbed as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't even want to say I'm torn on this, but I will say that I don't get Hall of Fame voting sometimes. Bill Belichick has 8 Super Bowl rings, has probably, 12 or 13 Super Bowl appearances. Because I can't remember if he was on the Bill Parcells Super Bowl run team that they had in New England back in the 90s. He was on both the Bill Parcells winning New York teams as a defensive coordinator. So he was that way. He was 6-2 in Super Bowls, so that's another 8 that he was on in 20 years of coaching the New England Patriots. That's consistent coaching. That's consistent greatness in coaching. Even if you want to complain about his run in the Browns before they moved and became Baltimore, look at what he produced out of that. Like, they set the foundation for the Browns organization that turned into the Baltimore Ravens. But he also had coaches like Nick Saban. I don't remember how many other coaches, but I know Nick Saban was on that squad. Ozzie Newsome. Like, they all learned. And Bill Belichick was an architect for that. So there's got to be something to this. And if the reporters who are in there aren't being non-biased, and can you say the past 35 years or so that you can tell the story of football without Bill Belichick? I don't think you can. And that's the truest stage of a Hall of Famer. Yes, I understand. I heard one say, because of the way the voting is, that he wanted to get these 3 old-timers in that probably should have been in. But we have a lot of people who don't go look at the history of this game, and they see the modern version of it. And because it's got so many eyes on it, we want to put all those people in the Hall of Fame. But are they Hall of Fame worthy? All of them. Tom Brady will be Hall of Fame worthy. Is Eli Manning Hall of Fame worthy? Oh, that's hard for me. And I'm not even saying this as a Cowboys fan. Was he, like, I think Kurt Warner is more of a Hall of Fame quarterback than Eli Manning was. I think Kurt Warner had a storied career that you can't tell in the NFL. Now, there's part of the Bill Belichick story you can't tell without Eli Manning, where they beat them twice in the Super Bowl. Um, but you can't sit here and go that the Hall of Fame. And I understand maybe you don't want to give the man first ballot nods, which is dumb as hell, because he's one of the winningest coaches in football history. And there's something about Hall of Fame voters, or the 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 image Hall of Fame voters want to put on these guys who are Hall of Famers, who, because they had character issues or they did something. Um, but if you're still talking about them to this day, there should be some people who got Hall of Fame votes that, and we'll use baseball. Baseball's the worst on this. Baseball's got his head stuck up his ass so far on this that it is not funny, especially the baseball writers, because you don't have Barry Bonds, you don't have Pete Rose, and you don't have Roger Clemens in the Baseball Hall of Fame. You don't have the greatest home run hitter, one of the greatest pitchers and strikeout king, or the greatest hitter of all time in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Because the stuff they did, or the stuff they supposedly did to enhance themselves, and someone who gambled on the game. That is fucking ridiculous. That is not representing your game to the best. Because you can't tell me that Babe Ruth, who was a womanizer, who was a drunk and all this, didn't have image issues or wouldn't have had image issues in today's standard. The fact that, like if you can't tell the story of that game without mentioning their names, then they should be in the Hall of Fame. Baseball is not above its history. You guys looked away for steroids, especially. And when it benefited you, it was great. And then when it kind of came and smeared the image of baseball as this clean thing that I don't think it ever was, but that y'all have this image of baseball going, and but y'all need to get your head out of your asses. Hall of Fame voters in general need to stop thinking that this is more pristine than it should be. Because you should be telling every side of the story of the sport that you're covering. And there are black eyes on all the sports that you cover. So, please, Hall of Fame voters, and you may never hear this. I don't know if you will or you won't. But pull your heads out of your asses. Because you make your game look stupid. You hurt the game more than you're helping it by keeping the prestige. And this is the same thing that we do with history now in general. That we want the clean version of it, and we don't want any of the dirty muck that came with it. The dirty muck of life, the dirty muck of history, the dirty muck of anything is where you learn the lessons that built it to what it became. Don't need to hide it. We hide it so much. We hide the dirty muck of life from people, and then people don't understand what life is when they get in the muck. Like, they don't understand that part of life is not just, it's not always clean, it's not always spit shine, it's not always polished and looks so shiny. There's times it's tarnished, and there's time that there's beauty in the tarnish. And the Hall of Fame should show the whole beauty, should show the flaws in the diamonds and make the diamond more spectacular. So you should, and Baseball Hall of Fame, this is not something that just I said. I know for a fact, and I've listened to Bob Costa say, yes, you put them in a Hall of Fame, and you put with their tablet the story of them. But there's all these people want to hold this up like it's the grandest thing, and it is, and it's a high honor. But you're dishonoring the sport that you were trying to honor by not telling every side of the story from the scandals that happened and just omitting it because, well, we don't like how they handled that scandal. Or, and that may be the thing with Bill Belichick because he has some blemishes on his record of, well, he won all this because they had Tom Brady. Well, okay. Bill Walsh won all his Super Bowls with Joe Montana. Um, George Safer won his Super Bowl with um, Steve Young. Um, Jimmy Johnson won all his Super Bowls with freaking Troy Aikman. Um, Tom Landry won all his Super Bowls with Roger Staubach, and like there was always a cumulative team. Chuck Nolan won all his Super Bowls with Terry Bradshaw. Vince Lombardi won all his Super Bowls and his championships with Bart Starr. They're always hand in hand with each other. They are not something that happens um, outside of each other. In order to win a Super Bowl, win multiple championships of any kind, let's go through the history of basketball. Red Auerbach doesn't win all those NBA championships without Bill Russell and John Havlicek and Bob Cousy, who are all Hall of Famers. Um, they don't win those. They don't win all those things with all those superior talent to people in the NBA. Phil Jackson doesn't win 11 titles without having two of the best players at the time he was coaching for each one of his runs. He doesn't win all his titles without Kobe and Shaq, and then when Kobe was at his best, and Pau Gasol, or Michael and Scotty, and then a third that was all right, that could be considered a Hall of Famer in Horace Grant and Dennis Rodman. Like, you can't separate the two. You can't do it in any sport. You can't separate a great coach not having great players and say, well, that's on the coach. Because you can have great players as a coach, but if you can't coach worth a lick, if you can't get them to buy into what you're selling, then you're not going to win. That's why there's so many coaches that even though they have great talent on their team, if they can't set up the great talent, that's part of it. So the Hall of Fame, and when you look at coaches, can't hold them to such a pristine standard that, oh, well, because of Deflategate, Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. Y'all full of shit. That's the dumbest thing. And it doesn't make anyone look bad but the sport itself. It makes the people covering the sport look bad. Now, whoever makes it in the Hall of Fame class this year, I'm going to be happy for them. They probably deserve it as players. But they're going to have a tarnish around them. And it's not even going to be their damn fault. It's going to be people's fault who held a grudge and don't understand that they look like a bunch of pompous assholes. Is basically what it is. So all Hall of Fame voting committees need to do better. Next thing we're going to talk about is Sunday, and Royal Rumble was yesterday, midday, from Riyadh. I think it's interesting that they always do this stuff from Riyadh. Not even going to get into it, but we'll go with the matches themselves. Women's Royal Rumble winner being Liv Morgan. That was cool. It was cool seeing Brie Bella come out um, and doing the yes stuff and doing the stuff like her husband does. I think that's really cool. I love it. Um, I think seeing the girls from NXT like the Sol Ruka, JC Jane, and Kalani Jordan, that was fun to watch. I just I love the way they set up the Royal Rumble matches and give them some shine for a minute, and you get to see who they're kind of looking at. In debuts, that was great. I love how it adds to the storyline going into WrestleMania because there's always something small, something alright that is going to end up happening in WrestleMania because it happened at the Royal Rumble. Um, so for the men's, Liv Morgan win it. I, I think I think they're showing fractures in the Judgment Day, and they have been for a little while. I don't know when they're gonna say, "Oh, we're done with the Judgment Day," but it's not too far off. I think the Judgment Day's made its run, um, but I think they need to. I think they held on a little bit with Dom to give Dom some cover, and now he can kind of. I don't know if he can ever. I don't think he's as good of a heel if he's standing on his own, but I think they need to get him away from the Judgment Day and get him something that's more maybe his style or maybe something since he's doing the stuff with AAA that relates more with AAA. Um, because I love watching Dom Mysterio. And the fact he hadn't been on TV in a few weeks and he didn't wasn't entering in the Royal Rumble. Um, I hope what they're looking for is to get him. Because I think next year, I think would be a good time for Dom to win it. I think that's one of those ones where you look at next year. Um, but I think it's gonna be a big split, and I think it's gonna make Finn a baby face because he's at that time in his career, and I think that it's gonna make Dom the ultimate villain at some point in time. Um, so, but I think that we need to have so. I think that'll be interesting to see. Um, the other thing, AJ Styles, and I said this last week that I thought it would be apropos if he lost. Was I hoping he won? Did I want some more AJ Styles matches? Yes. Um, do I like that they're making Gunther the career killer? I kind of do. I kind of think Gunther's one of those wrestlers that is loved for his technique, but can be so hated for his personality. And I want to see if this is going to push him to a world title opportunity. I don't know if it does a WrestleMania one. I wonder, do they put another career like do you put another career in front of him for him to kill off, or do you let him ride this gimmick and see how much heat and how much hate he can get over the next few years, um, or over the next few months? I don't think it has to be years, um, but I do think that it's apropos that AJ Styles' career or WWE career died at the same event that it started off at the Royal Rumble. um, that he got. I think it would have been better had it been in the States. Even though I did love the crowd's reaction when he lost and the way he lost, he didn't lose giving up. He just he just couldn't finish. Like it wasn't the John Cena just kind of smiling tap. It was him still trying. He had portrayed it that he wanted his career to go on, but just that he just couldn't get out of it anymore. That he had just faded away. Um, I think uh, I think that people that, that I just think that was a good way to go. I think he did the honorable thing, and I think they can give Gunther no shine off John Cena and AJ Styles being two of the biggest baby faces, and then see what his next run's gonna be. Um, Maybe it is him and CM Punk. Maybe it's him and CM Punk at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight title. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Like, that's going to be interesting, especially with um, who won with Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble. And I love the Drew McIntyre interference to Cody Rhodes and knocking him out of the ring. Um, I think, like, that one I'm going to go off here in a second, but I liked it. Um, I think showing Drew McIntyre so strong in this heel role was a good thing. And just having him beat the living tar out of Sami Zayn and pull him more sympathy. Maybe they get another match and Sami wins. But I don't know if that's a WrestleMania moment or not because it's in Vegas. It doesn't have the connection for Sami. Sami's good, and I get why, because of Sami's faith that they always push him to the top when they go to Riyadh. Like it's go look like he's had a top spot like the last 3 or 4 times they've gone to Riyadh. He's been in a top tier match, and I don't blame him for that. That's them using something so that they can have a great thing for him. Um, but I will say I enjoyed it. And hell, you know what I really enjoyed? I enjoyed the men's Royal Rumble. Um, I enjoyed it in this fact. I enjoyed it in that they had so many good little moments in there, but teased himself. I enjoyed Seth Rollins coming out and because you know it's Seth. We're not pulling this Austin. Nobody else. That was Seth Rollins. That came out and knocked the hell out of Braun Breaker and stomped him, and then got him that early quick elimination, and then showing Obafemi, letting Obafemi shine for a little while and build him up, and all those new guys from NXT coming in and building them up. Even like in the women's where they built up Lash Legend and Sol Ruka and all that, that was good to see that they're building these people up. But it's also good to see that they're building like all these young stars up so that they have something when, let's be honest, in the next 4 or 5 years, Cody, Drew, like some of them are going to be hitting their 20th, 25th year here soon of wrestling because they've been wrestling since they were in their 20s or teens. And Finn Balor and what WWE has gotten good at is starting to push like talent that is starting to figure it out and connecting with the crowd and pushing them right. Um, I think that's been great. What I am gonna love to see, and I like seeing in the match, was the Grande Americanos come out. Even though it's a stupid thing, you know they're gonna have a little riff, or they're just gonna become a little faction of the Grande Americanos, which is gonna be something that um, and just have all these little things because they have all these probably little events. They'll probably have another Saturday Night Main event, so you're gonna need something like that. So let's just see how that goes. The best one's probably gonna be what do they do with Roman Reigns, Jey Uso. I feel like Jay and Jimmy gonna have a good tag match at WrestleMania. Um, I have a feeling. So this brings up a curiosity. Who does? Because Stephanie Vaquer and Raquel are going to have a fight, and Liv took out Raquel in the Royal Rumble. There's going to be something that goes there. They've already been planting seeds about it, so I think that'll be interesting. But you know what? It'll be interesting to see Bellas in a tag team match because you know that's going to happen. Do they do a Rhea and Io versus the Bellas? That would be interesting. Again, all this has just come off the top of my head. Roman. Who does Roman face? Do you keep the belt on Drew till Mania? Him as a villain and Roman as a babyface? Revisit that rivalry? But I did like the shit talking Drew did after the fact. Saying, come on, you don't have all those people around you now. So I'm going to kick your ass. I like that. I really do. So, I want to, I just want to see what's going to happen before anything else happens. So let's see. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens Monday and Friday with all of this. Because I think the best part about this is going to be what stories are they going to tell. Now, I got to watch, since we're talking about WWA, I got to watch Unreal. I do like Paul Heyman coming on and saying that I don't like this show. But them talking about all the stress that they caused, like Becky Lynch, when Seth Rollins faked that injury, that was great. And just the planning and doing something that would have happened when I was a kid, that worked. Man, that was so fun to watch. And then them explaining that not a lot of people knew it. We let these people in, and then nobody told anybody. I think that's a really big part of it. So it'll be interesting when this is done for them to show it probably like next year about this time. I like that show. I like seeing how it was kind of made and how the decisions were made. But I also like live, not knowing it. So it's kind of cool. It's cool to see it later on. But no, the whole. I think WrestleMania scenes is gonna be because it's always the time of year that I get really back into WWE. Is this time of year like Royal Rumble to WrestleMania? we've been talking a lot of WWE. We'll probably still be talking a lot of WWE. So once that happens, y'all, um, y'all can be annoyed or y'all can love it. Speaking of loving it, I hope you love the podcast. Like, share, comment. Remember, I'm on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon. Y'all have a good one. Peace out. See you next week. I'll do my Super Bowl predictions um, next Sunday morning. And y'all can see if I'm right. Um, but, and maybe talk about what I think is going to happen at halftime. Because I'm not going to watch the other one, even though I'm a country fan. Um, I've been introduced to a lot of stuff I didn't know I liked because of Super Bowl halftime. So people can get over that. But again, this is Jackass Podcast. This is Coach Lindsay. Um, like the pod, follow. Again, I'm on Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment, please. If you say something I don't agree with, I may address it on the podcast. Y'all, peace out.